and welcome to today's vlog where I'm going to answer lots of the questions that you asked me in one of my recent videos. So I do hope you will enjoy watching that, as well as a little bit of a peek into my everyday life. It's a bit of a day in the lifestyle vlog, so come and follow along with my day as I answer those questions. So I thought we'd start in the kitchen this morning, which is a bit of an odd place to start, seeing as I mostly do sewing videos, but seeing as it's a day in my life, I thought this is where we'd start, since this is where I'm starting my day. I have done the school run on the bike, I have come back and tidied up the kitchen from breakfast, and now I'm getting started on dinner. So we have quite a busy day today with some music lessons this afternoon, and then I'm busy tonight. So I wanted to get started early in the morning. I am making a pumpkin seed and oatmeal loaf this morning in the bread maker, ready for a very quick and easy soup and bread dinner tonight. So that's what I'm working on this morning, and I just thought I would introduce the video while I get cracking on making this bread today. In a moment, I'm going to make myself a coffee. I'm going to sit down in the sunshine because it is finally sunny, and I'm going to start by answering a couple of those questions that you asked in the video. So thank you for asking those. It's nice and quiet this morning, although the builders are working upstairs, so do forgive any extraneous noises you might hear during the video. Right, I'm gonna get this loaf in the bread maker, and then I'm gonna make myself a coffee. Coffee. I'm going to have a sip now, and it's going to be a busy day. I've got quite a lot to do in terms of just house admin, house jobs, and getting a few bits and pieces sorted for the builders upstairs. And then, yes, like I said, we have a busy afternoon, but I just thought I'd pop on during the day and try and answer some of your amazing questions, and I am hoping in a little bit to get onto my sewing machine and share my most recent project with you. So I'll start with the first set of questions, which are a few about me, and the first one was, which part of New Zealand are you from? So I was actually born in Wellington, but my family and I have always lived in Christchurch. So that's on the east coast of the South Island, and it is just the most beautiful place. I do love going back. I do often think of it as home. It's just such a beautiful country, and I do miss my family a great deal, many of whom still live in New Zealand. So we do try and go back and visit when we can, but obviously it is quite a long way away. But yes, that is where I'm from. And I had another question about whether I'm of Dutch origin. There are quite a few people of Dutch origin in New Zealand, however I am not of Dutch origin. So one side of my family is of Scottish descent, and then on my father's side I have a mixture of English, from Gloucestershire actually, and then from Germany. So a real mix, and definitely of European descent, but not Dutch. So thank you for those questions. And then I had a couple of questions about just my recent change in body shape. I have in the last 6 months lost a little bit of weight. I don't want to linger too much on this because obviously it might be triggering for some people, but I have suffered from IBS for a very long time, and I just recently worked with a couple of specialists to just change a few things in my diet to hopefully help with that long term, which has made a really positive impact on my everyday life, which is great. As a result, I have just lost a little bit of weight, and hopefully that will tail off now as things settle down, but it is for good reasons. I haven't been poorly, or at least not excessively poorly. It's just trying to manage this ongoing condition. It's such a sunny day here today. It's so nice, and I have got my Q dress on today. Just for those of you who might be wondering what I'm wearing in today's video, I have got my Q dress on, and then this is my Juniper cardigan by Jennifer Lauren handmade, which I've just popped on over the top. My Q dress is by Nina Lee, and it is in a beautiful rayon by Rifle Paper Company. I've got my headband on as well so that I can match today. I do think often this is a really special dress. I did make it for sort of a garden party, but you know what, life is short and I just love wearing dresses, so I just decided this morning I'm going to wear the dress. It is a day of home chores and running around after the kids this afternoon, but I just think that we need to wear the special dresses and enjoy wearing the dresses if that's what you enjoy. And I do, I really love wearing a dress. So I've popped this on today for the sunshine and I'm loving it. Right, so I'll answer a couple more questions here and then I'm going to go and carry on. I think I've got washing to fold, excitingly. So but before I go and get on with that, the next question is, am I self-taught and how did I get started sewing? So in New Zealand, where I grew up and went to school, we have classes when you are in sort of years 7 and 8, and sometimes a little earlier as well in years 5 and 6, but mine started primarily in years 7 and 8. And we do a mixture of things actually. Both girls and boys do sewing and cooking and woodwork and metalwork, or at least those were the 4 that I did when I was at school. So apologies, now you're going to hear the bread maker in the background because having just turned it on and sat down to have my coffee, I've realised it's going to make noise in the background. So yes, in New Zealand we take those 4 classes at school, and I absolutely loved my sewing lessons. I kind of wanted to stop doing the woodwork and the metalwork and just do another couple of terms of sewing. Having said that about the school classes, I also sewed a lot with my mum at home. We made Christmas decorations together, we sewed, and obviously my mother sewed dresses for me growing up as well, and my grandmother had sewn for her, so there's really a family tradition. I'm going to just pause the bread maker. Hang on a minute. I can't pause the bread maker, so you'll just have to put up with a little bit of background noise. I'll finish this question and then I'll come back later on. I did grow up sewing with my mother and obviously with her sewing for me, and that was amazing because as I tried my first pattern, I think my first sort of pattern was a commercial sort of McCall's pattern for pajamas, and I think I made them out of some lovely bright blue poly Winnie the Pooh fabric, and I was so proud of those pajamas. But obviously she helped me to read the pattern, she troubleshooted the sewing machine when I had problems with that, so I probably wouldn't have got started if it weren't for my mother helping me as well to learn to sew sort of clothes and garments. I also did some cross stitch growing up, and mum taught me that too. And then when I got to university, I actually started hand piecing a quilt, and mum helped me learn how to do that as well. And I just used to hand piece it together very slowly when I was listening to lectures or doing bits and pieces of study. And I did not finish that until my oldest child turned 8, so that was definitely a long sewing project, but one that I really enjoyed. So in terms of getting started with sewing, it really was both my mother's passion for sewing and passing that on to me, and then school as well really sort of ignited that passion for sewing and making my own clothes. Right, I'm going to let the bread maker do its thing. I'm going to carry on with some of these jobs and drink my coffee, and then I'll pop back on in a little bit and answer a few more of your questions. Hi, so I've done all the washing and quite a few of the jobs, and I'm just going to give myself a little bit of a sewing break before I break for lunch. So I thought I would share with you, before I answer a couple more questions, what I'm working on today. And it is with this fabric here that I shared in my most recent vlog, I think, my chatty sewing catch-up. So it is the most recent fabric that's been released by Guthrie Ghani, so it's exclusive to them, and it is a beautiful viscose. It's very drapey, very soft, so I had to be very careful cutting it out. And I actually made quite a few mistakes. It's been a bit of a week. We've had some children up in the night. I think I'm quite tired because I don't normally make this many mistakes cutting out. So I'm really glad I did manage to get all of the pieces out in the end. So last night I was sewing up the straps for the dress that I've chosen to make, and I managed to sew them together. You're actually meant to fold the straps and then sew them down like this. But I'd already trimmed all the seams by the time I worked that out. And so I went to bed and I've just come back. I've cut out some new sets of straps and I have sewn them up properly and turned them out. So now I have got 4 straps ready to put into my bodice. So what I actually decided to make with that fabric is something I didn't even mention in the video, but I saw it because So Love Patterns were having a pattern sale over on their website. And when I saw this dress, I thought, you know what, that's the one. And I think I said earlier, I really love wearing dresses, and I do tend to wear them, even the special ones, just on a daily basis because I love them and they make me feel happy. So I decided to make their Chloe dress, and actually because the bodice is a little bit lower and it has these tie straps, I think the tie straps will look relaxed enough for wearing it on a warm summer's day, or I could layer it over a t-shirt or with a blazer over the top, and I think I could also dress it up if I wanted to go out for dinner. And I have cut out all the pieces now and I did some stay stitching, and today I'm going to put the bodice together now that I've done the straps. So these are the bodice pieces. It's gathered across the bust with these 2 cups, and then it has a beautiful little sort of ruched tie in the middle. So I'm going to start working on that, I think, for the next little bit before lunch, and see how far I get. So in terms of the questions, quite a few of you asked how I got started with sewing, and I've shared that now. In terms of how I restarted my sewing journey, it was really during the pandemic, like a lot of us, where I had just had my 3rd and last baby. I was getting rid of a lot of the maternity and nursing clothes that I had kept for the last 6 or so years of having babies and nursing babies. And there was just not that much in my wardrobe that fit me very well. And especially with a changing body shape, I just wanted clothes that fit me and that I felt good in. Now, obviously being the pandemic, there wasn't a lot of shopping going on in person. And with 3 small children, shopping just really isn't so much fun anymore. So what I decided to do was just get started making my own wardrobe. I was also watching quite a few sewing vloggers. So I loved the Yorkshire Sew Girl, Sewn on the Tyne, who else? Cathcraft, made by Cathcraft, and so many others. I could just list a whole bunch, and in fact I'll make a list in the description box below of some of my favourite vloggers to watch. And they were just so inspiring in terms of getting started making my own wardrobe, and I used a lot of their pattern suggestions to get started with the indie sewing patterns, and I've never looked back. So it was really the pandemic and my changing body that motivated me to sew. I really wanted to feel positive about myself. And as someone who does have non-standard measurements, I have quite a small bust, and then the difference between my waist and hip is 10 inches, which does make fitting trousers and things difficult, and even some dresses, they'll fit me across the waist and hips but not at the bust, and so on. So I just thought, in terms of helping myself to feel positive about my post-baby body, I would start making my own clothes, and I just didn't look back. I had another question about how I got started making YouTube videos, and I just mentioned the vloggers that I absolutely loved watching. I got so much encouragement from being part of the Instagram sewing community, and also from commenting and interacting with videos here on YouTube. It was just so lovely to be part of the sewing community in that way, and I just wanted to share my sewing journey and become part of that sewing community here on YouTube as well. So I just decided one day I was going to give it a go. I set up my phone, and again, I've just never looked back. I really enjoy sharing my sewing journey with you all here on YouTube, and it's just been so lovely getting to know some of you in the comments, and indeed meeting some people at the Stitch Festival and in-person sewing events now that those are back. So yes, that's a little bit of my sewing journey since I restarted sewing a couple of years ago, and like I said, I just haven't looked back. I also find sewing is really good for my mental health. In these last few years that have been quite challenging for all of us, it has been something that has been really, really good for me to take a break, to do something with my hands, to just calm my mind and sew a few seams. It's been amazing. So many reasons why I took sewing back up again, and I'd love to hear your reasons. Why do you sew? Do let me know in the description box below. If you are a sewer or a knitter or a crafter of any sort and kind, do let me know why you do it and what motivated you to get started with your crafty hobby. So I'm going to answer one more question before I do a little bit of sewing, and that is, what machine do I sew on? So about a year ago I upgraded my machine to a Pfaff Quilt Ambition 630. I did say I would do an unboxing and a bit of a review of that machine, so if that's something you still would like me to do drop me a comment below. I think I feel like I've just spent the last year really getting to know it. I have used some more of the functions now. I've sewn knit on it, I've sewn wovens of different weights and types, and I have used a few more of the embroidery stitches and things. I'm still very much learning about the machine, but I really, really love using it. In terms of my overlocker, I got that during the pandemic, so I just went for what was available in terms of sort of an entry mid-level machine, and I got the Janome 9300DX. That's been great. I just wanted something that would help me to finish my seams on the inside of my garments more professionally so that they would last me for a long time, and also something I could use to sew knit garments, particularly for my children. And I'm really pleased with that machine. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It's worked beautifully. I've never had any issues with it. I've replaced the needles, but I haven't had to replace the blade yet, although it is probably due for a new blade and a bit of a service. But yes, very happy with that machine too. In terms of other machines, I have thought about a cover stitch, but I just don't think I sew enough jersey to make it worthwhile at the moment. And I do love embroidery machines. The lovely Find Me Sewing, who is over on Instagram, often shares her amazing embroidery work on her embroidery machine, which is so inspiring. And I would love to think about an embroidery machine perhaps in the future once I get my sewing room, because there really isn't any room for any more machines here in the corner. As it is, my two machines are pretty close together on this tiny little table behind me. But yes, an embroidery machine is definitely something I would love. So if you have one that you love, do drop me a comment below and let me know which machine you've got. So for now, these are my machines and I'm really happy with them. So I'm going to head off and do a little bit of sewing of my own now, and I'm going to pop back on in a little bit and share some more answers to your questions and some more of my day. Right, I'm back. We're having one of those sewing days. Why did some days go like that? So I've done the lining, which is just a dart. I wonder if you can see. And the fit is great. So actually what I did with the Chloe dress is my bust fit into a size B, my waist a size C, and my hips into a D. So the bust cups and things I cut at a size B. And then the next pieces down I've graded from a B here to a C at the waist, and then again the pieces for the skirt I've graded from a C at the waist to a D at the hip. So hopefully that will work, but certainly the bust seems to fit beautifully. So this is the lining, came together perfectly, no problems. But the front of the bodice has these two cups here, which hopefully you can see there's gathering here. Now I've already done this twice. I meant to be able to baste this little piece on here, and there's about an inch of fabric underneath. So I've obviously not gathered it enough, despite gathering it to this piece. So I pinned this piece on and pulled the gathers so that they would match this, and then sewed them together, and it's still an inch too long, and this is the second time I've done it. Just for the sake of honesty, I thought I would share that with you. So whilst I answer the next few questions, I've got my unpicker, I have the bust pieces, and I'm going to carefully unpick these threads and try for a third time to sew them together. I have had a break. I've gone and had some lunch, I've done some admin stuff that needed to be done, made myself a coffee, and I'm going to try one last time before school pickup and see if I can get this gathering right. Even sometimes on an easy project, some things are a bit of a challenge. So there we go. So the next three questions I've got, I thought were really fun ones, so I thought I'd leave them till the end. And the first one is, what is your favourite garment to sew? And I had to think about this one for a while, because I do really enjoy sewing basics, things like t-shirts and vest tops particularly, that I wear all the time, because it's so nice to have those that really fit my body. But I think those are more practical and perhaps not so much fun to sew. So I think perhaps my favourite thing to sew has to be dresses. I mean, I just love to wear dresses. And like I've said before, the issue I have with a lot of dresses is that they'll fit me in the bust, but the waist is quite tight, or I won't be able to wear a certain style of dress because it doesn't fit my hips, or it fits my hips and then it's way too big over the bust. So I think what I've particularly enjoyed about making my own clothes is sewing dresses, because it is just so nice. Like with this one, even with the unpicking and all, it's so nice to make something that fits. So I really love to wear dresses, and it's just been so good for my mental health as well to be able to wear the dresses I like to wear and make them fit me, rather than trying to make my body fit into ready-to-wear sizes, which just, I'm not sure who it works for. I'm sure there are loads of us that can't fit ready-to-wear clothing the way it's designed. So yeah, that is probably my all-time favourite garment to sew, is just a lovely simple day dress. And then when we do have an occasion to go to, it is really nice to be able to sew sort of a fancy dress for myself that I know is going to fit perfectly. So the next question was, do I ever lose my SoJo and how do I get it back? And I think I definitely do. I found actually last month really inspiring for getting my SoJo back, sewing for other people and giving things away to other people, giving gifts, homemade gifts. I really find that very motivating. Oddly perhaps, I find that really inspiring for my sewing. And I think I also find it really motivating when there's something that I need in my wardrobe to get that sewn up so I can wear it. When I lose my SoJo, sometimes it's just because I've taken on too much in terms of too many projects that I've sort of given myself to sew, or I lose my SoJo perhaps when I've done quite a complex project and it hasn't worked out. I think in terms of getting my SoJo back, I really enjoy going and looking at what other people have been making on Instagram and commenting on their posts and just enjoying other people's makes. and sometimes I'll find that will really inspire me to get making. I also find it incredibly motivating to tidy up. I mean, at the moment, things are in an absolute state just because of the building works going on upstairs, but I do love to have a tidy space, and so sometimes if I've lost my SoJo, it can be because my space is a bit of a mess and things are a bit chaotic. So I often find it really motivating to tidy up or to go through my fabric and just sort that out, perhaps pick up a few things that I really love and I want to get sewn up. And sometimes going through my patterns, I'll flick through my patterns and sometimes find something that I forgot I had or I haven't sewn up for a long time. And that can be really motivating too. And then at other times when I've lost my SoJo, actually I've just sewn for my children, because I love sewing for my children, but I also just love the fact that a children's make is often quite quick and you can get that sort of satisfaction of putting your hands to work, producing something beautiful at the end and knowing it will be worn and loved. And that often restores my SoJo as well, just making something that's quick. Obviously I don't rush, but children's wear is so small, it does come together quickly. So just, yes, having something that comes together quickly, is made from a nice stable fabric, cotton poplin or a cotton lawn. And yeah, I think working with a nice stable, easy fabric and making a nice sort of make that I've made before. I know some people find that they love sewing up a tried and tested pattern, that can work. I don't often find that motivating. I am someone who works the other way. Actually, sometimes I can find a pattern that I haven't sewn before really inspiring to get me my SoJo back, because it's something new and different with new skills and things that I haven't sewn before. Sometimes I can find that really motivating in terms of getting my SoJo back, rather than sewing something that I've sewn a million times before. I think my brain can sometimes find that a bit tedious. But I know that for others that really works, just to get their hands in sewing machines working again, sewing something that they know really well. So I think different things work for different people and it's hard to say, but for me, I think those are the things that I've tried when I've lost my SoJo. This is all unpicked, so that's exciting. I'm going to press that flat again and try, third time lucky, see if I can get that sorted before the school run. So before I try and gather that for the third time, I will answer the last question, which is there anything in your sewing practice you wish you had learnt sooner? Which was such an interesting question, and this one had me thinking for a long time. Actually been mulling this over for a few days before filming this video. I think there are a couple of answers here. Number one, I wish I had realised sooner the value of giving things a really good press. Now that's probably not the answer you're expecting. So I sew with my ironing board right beside me. The iron is on, it's hot, it's ready to go. I do have a pressing cloth and all of that jazz because I do keep my iron really hot. And I press everything. I just think that it makes the finish of the garment look better. I just enjoy wearing things that are pressed well. I feel like my garments have improved in terms of neatness because you can really see where the seams are lying. I think I wish I'd learned sooner the value of a good iron and giving things a good press in terms of getting the finish of your garments where you want them to be. I think along the way I've learned a lot of things about what I prefer in terms of my sewing practice, but in terms of learning them sooner, I don't think I could have learnt them any sooner, because I think you only learn these things through trial and error, through trying out different techniques, making mistakes and learning from those about yourself. So I know that I don't prefer facings, I know that I prefer things to be fully lined. So in that case I've had to learn things about how to line things neatly, how to finish off with invisible zips, because I definitely prefer those. So in terms of making smock dresses like the Tilly and the Buttons Indigo, which I really like, I prefer not to use a facing, I prefer to line the bodice, and I don't really love the really blousy smocked fit, so I have often sized down and then put in an invisible zip. So I don't necessarily like things to be fully fitted, but I do like them to be a bit more formed, especially to the shape of my bust and waist, which are slightly smaller, so just to draw attention to my smaller parts and then float over my hips. So perhaps I wish I'd learned sooner about the styles of garments that I prefer to wear, but again, I think you can only learn these things by trying out different patterns and learning what you like to sew and what you like to wear. Right, I wish I had happier news to report, but I don't. I've done it again. I've sewn it up. It's closer this time, but it's still out. I don't quite know what I'm doing wrong, so I'm going to have a think about it. I've got to go now and do the school pickup, so my time for sewing is over, but I even measured this central point here, which is 9.5 centimeters, and made sure that my 5/8 point on my seam here was measuring 9.5 centimeters, but for some reason, once I'd sewn it down and taken out the gathering threads, it still is too big, not by much. And if it didn't need to sit really tight and flush against this, I wouldn't mind so much. I'm going to think about what to do because it's almost there. And perhaps if I just hand tacked it down to this central point, it would be okay. I just would worry about unpicking it again and sewing it again in terms of maintaining the integrity of the fabric. So I'm going to have a think about that. You're going to have to come back next week and see how I get on with that. I think next week is going to potentially be my what I got made in May video. Not a huge amount this month actually, I think, but I have enjoyed sewing what I've been sewing. I've got the closet core boiler suit on my list to try next, and that should be fun. So hopefully I'll have that finished in the next week and be able to share that with you in next week's video. Thank you so much to those of you who have subscribed. Like I said, this video was just to celebrate getting to 10,000 subscribers, which is amazing. So thank you. If you have subscribed, and if you haven't, do click that subscription button. It would be lovely to have you as one of my regular subscribed viewers if you haven't hit that button already. And if you have, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for your lovely questions. I hope you enjoyed this little peek into my daily life. Not a lot of sewing today and not a huge amount of productive sewing today, but that's okay. Some days are like that. Hope you enjoyed the video. I look forward to catching up with you next week when I hopefully share a finished dress. We'll see. Until then, I hope you have a happy week ahead full of lots of happy sewing. I shall see you soon. Goodbye.